Paul, we before the funeral happening, the Trump administration tried to put pressure on many countries around the world not to participate. And what was important during the funeral, the first day of funeral, which were, we have the foreigners coming to going to Iran and talking with, the officials in Iran. And what was so important when it comes to the region was the participation of Saudi Arabia, for example. Saudi Arabia, this is something new between Iran and Saudi Arabia. There are people reporting that the behind the scenes something is happening between Iran and Saudi Arabia and other countries in the region, not only Saudi Arabia and Iran. They're talking about Turkey, talking about Egypt, they're talking about Pakistan, and these are all somehow coming together. They're talking about a new security architecture in the region. And but what is important between Iran and Saudi Arabia is their understanding of the region, which somehow you know the history between these two countries. Basically, one of them is Sunni, the other one is Shia. They created this sort of rhetoric that these people hate each other and they have to fight forever. That is the sense. That is the propaganda for such a long time, for decades. Right now, ha-
Centuries,
centuries, yeah,
for centuries, a millennium.
yeah. And how do you see the region right now? How do you see that? One part is the negotiations between Iran and the United States, as you correctly mentioned, that MOU is nothing, is providing nothing when it comes to Lebanon, when it comes to the reality between Iran and the United States, nothing is, coming out of MOU. But the outcome of war is something physical. It's something related to the reality of what has happened during the war. This is the reason, for me, to my understanding, Saudi Arabia has right now a different move, despite having pressure coming from Washington, deciding to go to Iran. That means something. Your understanding of that?
Well, here's what I would say at this time. Since this is a relatively new development, we really don't know. Uh, what's working in favor of Iran is the fact that the United States and Israel are demonstrating that they're not following the agreement. So this has to again inform all of the Muslim countries, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Turkey, that you can't trust the Americans and the Israelis. They probably have a lot of experience themselves in that regard. And now they're seeing that the Iranians who agreed uh, are being betrayed by the United States and Israel, and they're not keeping the agreement. So this would encourage what is the Arab tendency to cover your bets. So they may start talking in more friendly ways with the Iranians, just as a precaution. It's not necessarily an indication that they're coming together at last and forming a common united front. It's too early to read that. I see it as just the Saudis saying, we don't know what's going to happen, so let's have some sort of connection with the Iranians in case things go against us from a different direction. So I think it's the Saudis just sort of getting a broader base that they may have to jump on. Uh, we'll see if they actually get some unified force. Now, if Trump is so stupid as to send American troops into southern Lebanon in behalf of Israel, that might actually bring the Shia and the Sunni together. And what, it's been something like 1,300 years. It might bring them together, and there may be a new alliance, the Iranians, the Saudis, the Pakistanis. Who knows? Maybe even the Turks. Well, that would be formidable. Certainly, the United States and Israel couldn't invade it. And with the Pakistani element, they have nukes too. So the possibility of that alliance is so tremendous that I don't know why it hadn't already happened. Because if you look at the numbers of peoples, the oil resources, the waterways they would control, Pakistan's nuclear weapons, Israel, the United States are finished in the Middle East. There could be no presence. You'd be talking about a force far more powerful than the entirety of Western Europe, probably as powerful as Russia, maybe more so. The populations of Pakistan and Iran and Turkey are huge. You put together the Persian Gulf oil with the Saudi Arabian oil, and you've got the world. You've got them. And so the fact that this has never formed up has deprived the Muslim world of its power, and it's left them there to be bossed around by Europe, the French, the British, then the Americans, and now the Israelis. And this is nonsensical. Well, if the Sunni Shia split hasn't been solved in 1,300 years, it may not be. But if it could be or was, well, then the whole power balance in the world changes dramatically. That region emerges as a world power that can stand up to anyone. So, but they don't jump on it. Why? I don't know. Why they are content to be isolated and bullied and threatened makes no sense to me. So that's my take on it, Nima.
Yeah. Paul, for such a long time, the region was so important in terms of the the oil, gas, and the global economy. Do you think that with the new changes that are happening, do you see the participate? Let's put it this way: the United States has two ways to deal with the issue of the West Asia: continuing together with Israel and ignoring anyone else in that region, not only in the region but outside of the region, or staying with Israel and sacrificing everything. And while I would argue they're smart people in Washington who understand what's going on in the region, how the role of other superpowers, how Russia and China are playing the roles, and they're trying to be close to both sides, Iran, Saudi Arabia. There is a good relationship between Pakistan and China. They were basically reporting and cooperating with China, or somehow informing China about the progress with the talks between Iran and the United States. China knew everything, not only from Iranians, but from Pakistanis as well. This is the way that the region is reshaping itself. I don't know how does Washington sees itself as time goes by. When we get out of the Trump administration, you see Washington as a state, as let's put it, deep state or the blob, or the establishment. How does the establishment see what's going on in the region?
Okay, let me respond. You've asked several questions. First of all, let me say that the Washington foreign policy community hasn't a clue. If you read their articles and what they say, it's just all nonsense. They have no clue about anything. They have no realistic understanding of anything. The only effective ones are the neoconservatives, and they've been in charge since the Clinton era. And their agenda remains Greater Israel, Israel at all cost. We see that every day. We see it, for example, the United States is now building an embassy in West Jerusalem, stolen land from the Palestinians. It's been in international law for the longest time that West Jerusalem is Palestinian territory occupied by Israel, but not subject to any annexation. And all of the embassies in the world refuse to locate their embassy in West Jerusalem, because that would be recognizing Israel's sovereignty over protected occupied land that belonged to Palestine. Well, Trump first said we're putting the embassy there, and now the administration has signed an agreement, a 99-year lease ownership of the land to build the embassy there. So this is a huge boost of Israel's claim on what remains of Palestine. We also see currently in the Congress, House, Senate, Democrats, Republicans, the use of the 2027 National Defense Authorization Bill to integrate the Israeli and American governments. We're going to integrate the militaries, the science, the technology. It's a sacrifice of American sovereignty. Well, this is a total commitment to Israel. There's no other way to read it. So clearly, there's not going to be any awakening in Washington, whether it's the Trump administration or any other, that we're going to lose in the Middle East by hooking our wagon to the Zionist agenda. It's just, we're going to lose, because the world can't accept that, the implications of that. How many more Muslim countries will be absorbed before they simply won't accept it? So I don't see any change there. There are no foreign policy analysts with enough independence in their livelihood to come up with a different approach, because the neoconservatives control all the money, and you simply won't be funded. If you step out of line with a neoconservative approach to the Middle East, you become unemployed. You don't have a voice. You don't have a position. So we won't see that. Now, let's come to the other part. You said that the developments that you find encouraging are Pakistan and China getting along, and and words, not actions, but words of support from the Russians, and that the region is having impact from influence of powers other than the United States. That's true, but that's not what I would emphasize. Pakistan, sure, they need to get along with China, of course. But China is not part of the Middle East. And Pakistan should be working with the Saudis and the Iranians and the Turks to create a powerful Middle East. That's where the emphasis should be. They shouldn't be saying, oh, we got to get foreigners, because the Russians, sure, they have an interest there, but they're not Middle Eastern people. Neither are the Chinese. Why try to develop protective alliances outside of your area? Particularly when you have the Sunni Shia split, you have to focus on, look, this has ruined us for 1,300 years. This has ruined us. We can't continue with it. The Americans, the Israelis will eat us alive. We can't continue. We have to have a united front. We have to form a powerful economic, political, military alliance. Well, all the ingredients are there. I've already said they've got the population. It's a huge number of people. Just go add up the population of Iran, Pakistan, Turkey. Look at the control of the energy resources. It's massive. It's massive. There's more power there than everywhere else in the world, particularly because the Pakistanis have nukes. So you can't intimidate them. You couldn't intimidate that alliance with nukes because they have them too. So this is what the focus should be. And I've been thinking about it for some time. Instead, I thought it would take a long time to form. So in the intermediate run, the short run, I've advocated the alliance between Russia, China, and Iran, because that would halt the American-Israeli aggression. It's just too much to go up against. But that's not as reliable an alliance as one that would be formed by overcoming this Shia Sunni split and bringing together the remaining countries. You have to understand that the United States and Israel have already eliminated Libya, Iraq, Syria, Palestine, and Israel is now at work on Lebanon, and still hopes to have the Americans go to work again against Iran. So at some point, the Sunnis and the Shia have to understand that they can't survive separate. They have no chance. They have to unite and bring together those four countries. It'd be a powerhouse. They would control the world's energy. There's no army in any country that could invade it. None. And so this would be the dramatic change. Now, of course, the Americans long ago gave up any belief in the so-called Arab Street. These people could never unite, and therefore they're not a problem. And this, of course, unleashed the neoconservatives and unleashed a more aggressive development with the Greater Israel agenda. So that should be the focus. Now, in the past, Middle Eastern oil was not really under the control of the countries. It was under American control. The United States even succeeded, it was successful in using Saudi Arabian and Middle Eastern oil to support the value of the US dollar, to provide the United States with endless funding of its debt. So the oil never served the purposes of the Middle East. It served America's purpose. And which again shows the extraordinary weakness of the Muslim world. They permitted that for decades. Well, if the Muslims are going to be active participants in their own demise, nothing can be done. They'll just cease to exist. So will they realize that and come together in order to be safe? They cannot be safe split, and they have not been. They've had no independence. Look, the United States and the British controlled Iran until the Iranian Revolution in 1979, I think, 78, 79. So the country didn't even control itself. Saudi Arabia has been under the American thumb forever. They've sacrificed the power of their energy to American goals. They protected the value of the dollar and provided a never-ending demand for American debt. So this is not the way to have independence, to have an independent country. And they can't be independent until they overcome this schism and unite. And the minute they do that, it's a powerhouse.